glitter is the herpes of craft elements because
It's gotta
it
be.
never goes away.
It never.
It's always there.
I still have it in my cymbal case, and I vacuumed it. The house that I lived in, I bet you still has it all over the carpet, and I vacuumed that.
So Dove of War went on an indefinite hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
I never wrote it off as being done.
No, of course.
And that's when I started my solo career a little more intensely. And when I say intense, I was still holding a day job, working retail, yay, and doing occasional gigs on weekends here and there. It was not a major source of income. It was fun money kind of thing. And then I want to say like 3 years went by, and the Champ was doing their Halloween show again. So I call up Doug. I'm like, hey, Champ Halloween show is coming up. I said, you want to do it? He's like, who you thinking? So I'd love to do it as Kiss. He's like, do I have to drum like Peter Criss? I said, no, you don't.
Nice.
You can drum like Doug Kerr if he were in Kiss.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I'm in. So we put together our, and at the Champ, you got about 4 or 5 songs. It was short set lists.
Yeah.
And we did a show as Kiss. And at that point, like at certain points in Dove of War's career, we were wearing masks. We were looking for a gimmick.
Yeah.
And I made these, I just got like cheap Halloween hockey masks.
Okay.
But I did really cool custom artwork on them.
Yeah.
Put like the netting you used to repair window screens over the eyes so you couldn't see through, cut the mouth out so we could sing. So I painted us each a mask that looked like, if you've ever seen the back of the Kiss album, Hotter Than Hell, there's an amalgamation of all 4 faces together.
Okay.
Like all 4 makeup ideas. So I kind of did that with it. It had like the Peter Criss whiskers, the Paul Stanley star over one eye, the Ace Frehley thing over the other eye, and then the Gene Simmons like hair thing. And because Doug was drumming and Peter Criss's color was green, his eye covering was green. Mine was red for the Gene Simmons thing.
That's cool.
So we went out and did this show, and Heather and I, we decided we had to do the spitting blood thing.
Yeah.
So we looked up all these online recipes for like fake blood, and we made this huge batch of blood. And at one point during the show, we were going to go into God of Thunder, which is where Gene Simmons usually spits blood. So I step off to the side of the stage to drink this stuff while Doug comes out and just starts throwing candy to the crowd because it was a Halloween show.
Yeah.
And he's throwing candy to the crowd. And then I go into like the noisy Gene Simmons bass solo and I spit this stuff all over myself. And, you know, that was in 2013. I'm pretty sure some of that red gunk is still on my bass. I never got it to come off.
Oh, man, I've been there with some stuff. My whole drum set, you can find blood on every piece of hardware on it.
Nice. Just from nicking your knuckles and stuff as you're playing? Or
No, real quick. I was playing with Mile Under, and we had a benefit show. Somebody had like stage 4 cancer. And it was, you know, awful.
That sucks.
She's doing a little better. She survived. She's still alive.
Oh,
This
that's
was like 7 years
fantastic.
ago. And we played, but it wasn't my drum set at the time, but it was my cymbals and my keyboard and my pedals.
Okay.
And my hi-hat.
Yeah, you always bring your
hardware.
breakables. As a drummer, you bring sticks and breakables.
Yeah, so I had all the hardware and the cymbals, not the drums themselves. Poor guy, Dan Spurk, they were his drums. Sorry, Dan. You know, talk to John. I don't know what to tell you. And but there was no bass drum mount for the rack tom.
Okay.
But there was a stand. There was like a snare kind of looking stand from hell, like at in a weird angle. So I had the snare, and my one tom was like above the snare. But I always snake a splash cymbal.
Okay.
And so it was like the nut of the splash cymbal. It was like snare, nut, tom.
Oh.
And we're in this amazing section of a song. And I went to give a rim shot to that tom. And I went, bah! Now, at the time, I had calluses from work on the tops of my right hand. And the callus here, I took off. 100% of the callus. Because I knew at work, I was like, oh, I have none of it. You know, but I punched, and when I went to go for this rim shot as hard as I could, the nut, my knuckle in, I just went boof, as hard as I could because I'm doing a rim shot. And then right there, I'm like, oh, that's terrible. And I missed the rim shot, and I'm playing, and I'm just watching blood go drip, 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 drip. And I'm like, oh, second song. We had the rest of like a 2-hour set, you know? And so I'm playing hi-hat, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of blood. And then I was doing keyboard. So I'm doing 3-way coordination here. And I'm like, oh, man, that's a lot of blood. So I probably still got blood on all of it. I know my pedals still have blood. I know my cymbals still have blood. And it's like, I'm not going to try to wash a cymbal. What do you do?
Yeah.
So you got fake blood all over your bass. I mean, I
yeah.
got blood. I even have glitter all over my keyboard and drums. Same band stood on the drum throne and smashed 2 beer bottles of like glitter or beer cans. They were going to be real beer, like full. But the manager was like, hey, I know what you want to do. Do glitter instead. And I'm like, right. Glitter.
Because that cleans up so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, well, he was worried about like equipment and stuff like that. And so instead of any equipment or wires getting a little bit of beer on them, all of my stuff still to this day has glitter. I threw away my clothes from that show.
Doesn't it say like glitter is the herpes of craft elements? Because
it
never goes away.
It never.
It's always there.
I still have it in my cymbal case, and I vacuumed it. The house that I lived in, I bet you still has it all over the carpet, and I vacuumed that. I mean, my everything that I ever had at that show.
That's amazing.
Has glitter. No, absolutely terrible. But so finishing up the Kiss story, y'all did this blood gimmick, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
It must have been.
It was, yeah. It was somewhere on some computer or SD card somewhere. We actually filmed the show.
Oh wow! Time to get it back.
Yeah, I guess I should see if I can find that. And I figure what we did: Love Gun, Parasite, Rock and Roll All Night, God of Thunder, and Cold Gin. And it was funny because I did a speech toward the end of the show. And at this point, I actually had a loop pedal with me.
Okay.
And I had a sound. Do you remember the Family Guy episode where they went to the Kiss concert?
Vaguely.
And Peter says to Lois, I knew you weren't a real Kiss fan when you wanted to be Peter Criss. Nobody wants to be Peter Criss, Lois. Not even Peter Criss.
Wow.
And so I had that sample on this pedal because it had different patches you could say.
Yeah.
And right before we did Rock and Roll All Night, I walked up to the stage and I said, I know, historically people think of Kiss as 4 very strong identities, like Paul, Gene, Ace, and Peter. You may notice that we don't have a song in our set list tonight from Peter Criss, and this is why. And I hit the pedal and it's like, nobody wants to be Peter Criss, Lois. Not even Peter Criss. And then we just tear right into Rock and Roll All Night. It was brilliant. Amazing. The crowd just lost it. It was
of course
laughter.